Hello and welcome to For Your Health. I'm Mark Crosby. Thank you so much for joining me and my guest, public health nurse Caitlin Kirby. She has joined me once again. Welcome, Caitlin. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you for having me as always.
As always, a pleasure. This program not only finds an audience here in Quincy, but we do play across the country. We certainly want to thank all the access stations for picking this program up.
Yes, and I always love to start by saying I always use general, like the Massachusetts Department of Public Health website or the CDC for all the information. So it is very generalized, but I always say for further details, you can reach out to your community to see if things are a little bit different around you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about today's topic, which is stress management.
Yes. So last month we were very heavy on mental health awareness, and where stress is a daily thing that we all deal with.
We all say, I've got stress. I'm stressed out.
And there are so many factors in our lives that we have no control over. So, and again, stress is so natural. We all have it. So I thought it would be important to really highlight what is stress and also what are effects on the body of chronic stress.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking back to your first program at Quincy Access Television, and you were stressed out. You didn't appear stressed out on camera, but you inside were feeling stressed. That's changed.
It's changed a lot. Yes, once you get comfortable with what you do. I think first year at least, I was always very stressed coming on. But yeah, you learn coping mechanisms. So that's all.
And I would probably imagine, and maybe we'll get into it, that a little stress is probably pretty good. In other words, you should have a little concern about, I suppose, what you're doing at any given moment, right? So I don't think stress is necessarily a bad thing, and we shouldn't look at it as a bad thing.
Yes. So periods of stress, it's a natural body response, and it is needed, which we'll get into. And it's really when it's chronic and long-term that we do start to see very negative effects on our body systems. So it's good to know how it affects, and then again, different tips and techniques to help reduce and help yourself get through the day and get through stressful moments.
So make it manageable.
Yes.
All right, let's look at the overview. We will start with a definition. What is stress? We will talk about the effects of chronic stress on the body, and there's a bunch of systems that we'll go through. How to manage stress, and then find additional information and resources. So as promised, and again, a good way to start the program is with a definition.
Yes. So what is stress? So stress, again, is your body's natural response to a challenge or a demand. And not all of these responses are negative. So yes, you think of stress, you think of a very negative thing. But if we didn't have stress, like especially our original humans on the world, if they weren't stressed, they probably wouldn't have known to run from a tiger. So stress is a response your body needs to react in situations. And it's all controlled by your central nervous system, so your brain and your spine send signals throughout your body. So it will send signals to your endocrine system to release different hormones. I'll get into those specific hormones. But basically what it is, so if your mind sees something and you perceive it as a threat, your body will release hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol, which help increase your alertness. And it puts you into like a fight or flight situation. And when you're in that mode, your body will notice an increase in your blood pressure, heart rate, and blood sugar. And again, stress is part of everyday life. We will all experience this. You could have the best mental health in the world. You still will have periods of stress. But short-term stress is very helpful. For example, it might make you meet a deadline. It could also help prevent a car accident. If you see a car coming at you, your body your adrenaline rushes and you know to step on the gas and move forward. So it does help you respond in situations. But again, when that becomes chronic, because people get stuck in that fight or flight response, and that endless amounts of cortisol and adrenaline pumping can be very negative. So again, not always a bad thing. You need that response. But if you start to notice it's really impacting your overall health negatively, that's when you really want to seek help, whether that's mental health counseling, or just try tips and tricks at home, because there are endless things that can help you manage. And a lot of it, it's things that seem so simple. It's like deep breathing. We all know how to breathe. You don't think that's going to help.
But most of us take shallow breaths.
Yes. So there are like different systems you can do where it's like deep in, like breathe in deep for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. And if you're doing that, you can really watch your heart rate decrease. You can watch your body feeling calmer. So the tips can seem silly, but they do work.
I don't want to bring too much of myself into this program, but kayaking is very stress relieving for me.
Yeah, so that goes in with exercise. So it's a natural way for your body to kind of get your different hormones pumping and calming your overall body down. So exercise is definitely a big one. And as we say with all of our preventative measures, do what works for you. Like kayaking might be something you love. I know we always say we're big hikers. Being outdoors is wonderful for your mental health and your stress. So make sure you're doing the things, setting aside time for things you love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the effects of chronic stress.
Yes, so according to the American Psychological Association, our bodies can handle stress in small doses. So again, that is your quick responses. You have a deadline, so the stress kicks in, you're going to get your work done and hand it in on time. It can be good, but it also, when it's chronic and long term, we'll see very negative effects. And I gave each system its own slide here.
I like that. I like that because it breaks it down in such a way that I think is better understood.
Yes, yeah. So when you think of it, so your mind, your brain is the one seeing the threat and then telling your body how to react. So the first one we jump right into is your cardiovascular. So I thought it was important just to kind of give an overview of what each system is. So our cardiovascular system, it consists of your heart and all your blood vessels. And they work together by pumping oxygenated blood. It gets oxygenated in your lungs, of course. So that system works by pumping oxygenated blood around to all your organs. So when that blood, it absorbs the oxygen and then it carries it to all your organs along with other nourishments. So chronic stress can seriously impact your health and your heart health because the body regularly produces increased levels of adrenaline and cortisol, increasing your heart rate and your blood pressure. So in a short-term event, that's a beneficial thing because it will give you energy to react. But if that is long-term and persistent, you will find over time those blood vessels, you'll find an inflammation in the coronary arteries, which increases your risk of heart attack and even stroke. So you want to make sure you're really taking care of your overall health. It goes all into like managing your blood pressure and your cholesterol and eating a healthy diet, of course. But you think of it like stress, like, oh, everybody deals with it, but you're dealing with it. So do things that work for you. Because I feel that's a lot in life. Like, yes, I'm stressed, but I'm not as stressed as that person is because my life seems easier than theirs. it doesn't matter whose life is easier. You yourself are experiencing stress, so you want to still address it. You don't want to minimize your stresses just because you think others have it worse.
Right, especially if you think it might be chronic stress.
Yes. Yeah. And over time, so with your cardiovascular health, I always love to say, check in with your doctor, because this will contribute to hypertension. It'll contribute to, again, your high cholesterol. So you want to make sure you're checking in with your doctor routinely, you're following your medications as needed. And if you are somebody who already has hypertension and you're feeling chronic periods of stress, check in with your doctor, because there are different ways, like whether it's mental health medication to get you through short periods. It's very beneficial, and you want to make sure you're addressing it. Again, I feel like stress gets brushed under the rug because everybody deals with it.
Ultimately, of course, if it's addressed, you have a better quality of life.
Yes. Yeah.
Endocrine system.
So your endocrine system. So this system makes and manages your body's hormones. So like this is your all your glands, so your pituitary gland, the hypothalamus in your brain, your pancreas, your adrenal glands. So this is, I do have a picture of that endocrine system just to see the different glands on a body. So chronic stress can interfere with the line of communication your endocrine system has with your immune system, because those go hand in hand. If you have a healthy endocrine system, your immunity and your body's ability to fight off infection will be better than somebody who is all dysregulated. They won't be able to fight off infections as well. So when the interference between this communication is consistent, health problems such as chronic fatigue, diabetes, obesity, depression, and immune disorders can occur. Because again, your body should not be constantly giving you cortisol, because that's not beneficial for your body. But your body could be stuck in like a fight or flight mode where it thinks you need that at all times, but it leads to overall exhaustion.
Certainly this has changed over the years. I think years ago, our parents, certainly our grandparents, when you talked about stress, it was, well, just deal with it, or just get over it. But we see that it's chemically based, and that's not necessarily the way to deal with it, is to say just forget about it.
Yeah.
Clearly, it needs more intervention.
To be addressed. Yeah, and that's something we're kind of seeing, especially with the internet and how connected people are, and how much, yes, false information can go around, but also positive information can go around as well. So mental health and knowing you're not alone in a situation can be very helpful.
And of course, knowing that stress is common, very common.
Yeah, and again, it's natural. Everybody experiences it kind of almost on a daily basis, depending on your life. But it's not something like, it has long-term effects. So if you're just burying it down, you're not going to address it, and you're not going to get better.
Right. So it's the, I suppose, frequency and the severity of stress. Let's talk about female reproductive system and how stress is, I suppose, related to that system.
Yeah, so for females, so their reproductive system includes the glands, organs, and tissues responsible for sexual reproduction. Chronic stress, it can influence the menstrual cycle to completely stop in some cases, or become irregular and make like periods more painful, the cramps and all of that. Chronic stress is also linked with low sex drive and infertility. So if you think of it, for a lot of females too, when you get to it, there's a lot of outside social stress of, if you want to have a child, you have to have it by this age. So if you think of it, it can be a very stressful time in a woman's life. So the added pressure of you have to be pregnant by this date or else you're going to be too old, and there's so much that goes into it. So you want to make sure you're following of course, check in with your doctor, keep up with your vitamins and minerals. You want to make sure you're maintaining your overall health, because if you do get to that period, like that time frame when you do want to conceive and you haven't been taking care of your body and you're just riddled with stress, it's going to actually hurt your chances. So, and there's a lot of testing, like of course now with our medical field, there's a lot of testing that people can do. And there's a lot of information on different vitamins and minerals that your body needs and how it helps your endocrine secrete the right amount of cortisol and all of that. So there's a wealth of information out there. I always say just make sure you're talking with a professional to see what works for you specifically, because what works for you might not work for me,
Certainly.
and vice versa.
And I also think, again, because times are changing and have changed, that maybe the stress put on a woman to conceive has been or is less nowadays than it was years ago.
Yeah, there's so many factors that go into stress. And again, I think that's the biggest thing with stress is realizing you don't have control of those outside factors. Even like I go to work every day and I have this list of things I have to get done, but I can't control what else is going to be thrown, like what calls are going to come in. So it's all learning good coping mechanisms, so that way when I get those extra calls, I'm not like, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's
Yeah, you've prepared your body for that.
yeah. So it's kind of like, and it's almost a good thing to let go and realize I don't have control over those. So it helps you not get so stressed out. Yeah.
Well, female reproductive system, certainly the male reproductive system as well.
Yes, so for men, again, their system would be the glands, organs, and tissues responsible for their reproductive, also controls their sex drive. So chronic stress can lead to a decline in sex drive, erectile dysfunction, and they could become infertile themselves. Chronic stress is also linked to lower sperm count, which can make it more difficult to conceive. So again, another stressful thing to add to a stressful situation. So you want to make sure you're taking care of your mental health. And there's I know it's hard to say everything in these short episodes, but like your diet affects that greatly. So even making changes that work for you can be huge. Whether that's even something my husband and I are trying to do in our house. We love diet soda, which is awful for you, obviously. So what we've decided is we'll have, there's a lot of sodas on the market now that are healthier and have less sugars and all of that. So we decided we'll do something like that at home, so you still have your carbonated drink, but when you go out, you could have a treat and have soda. So it's just limiting our access. It's not easy for us to open a can of soda at 10 o'clock at night.
In some cases, seltzer water might kind of fill that gap left
void,
behind,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
by eliminating sodas.
I will say some of the healthy ones they have on the market are pretty good though. Like it depends on which ones you're trying.
As recent to the taping of this program, is it Poppy?
Yeah. That's one of the ones I like, actually. I don't like all the flavors, but it is
And that, I think, markets itself as having less sugar, correct?
Yeah. I believe there's only 5 milligrams of sugar added to those. I shouldn't say specific, but I have those at home, so I know that. But again, they also, like those types of companies, instead of all the artificial flavors they put in diet sodas, they use more things like apple cider vinegar, which sounds gross, But those healthy additives help your microbes in your stomach, and it helps your overall body maintain your health.
That actually brings us to gastrointestinal system, and again, its relation to stress.
Yeah, so your GI system is everything from your mouth all the way down to your anus. So that includes like your saliva glands. So like when you're chewing, your glands know to make saliva to break down the food. Includes your throat, stomach, and intestines. So when people are having short-term stress, so like even at the very beginning, you mentioned public speaking. Me coming on the show in the beginning, I used to cry before I came on because I could not think of the idea of speaking in front of a camera. Again, you're bought with time and with experience. You build up a confidence with it, and it makes it easier. But a lot of people do get that public speaking is like a number one fear. I don't know where is on the list anymore. But people who have short-term stress, they may find temporary bloating, nausea, stomach pain, or changes in appetite. Which in a short-term situation, that can be okay as long as your appetite's returning to normal after you get through that experience. Chronic stress will worsen those problems. It also will change the gut microbacteria in there. So there are different microbes in your gut that are needed to break down your food properly and take the proper nutrition out of it. So if you're not taking care of your overall health and you're just constantly living in stress, you can clear out those good bacteria and then your body's not absorbing correctly. It also weakens the intestinal barriers and can release gut bacteria into the body. So all very negative side effects. We also see people, like if they're chronically living in stress, they can lead to GI, so like Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome. There's a lot of different avenues of that. But maintaining your overall health and maintaining your stress levels plays a significant role in that. Because even in myself, this is a little personal, but like when I was younger, I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And I find that when I get very stressed, like I'll kind of, different periods of time, I'll get very stressed out and my body will actually break down. And then I rest. Like that's when I take time to sleep and eat good, and I find I recover quicker. But now that I know I do that, I now schedule rest times throughout my average week. That way I'm not leading to burnout every time.
Very good, very smart.
Yeah.
I suppose not a surprise knowing this because you're in the health field, but it may not be, for those that aren't, it may not be a thought that that's what they really need to do to manage the stress that can really be debilitating.
Yes, yeah. And it all goes hand in hand, because if you have a condition that's making you stressed, and then it's hard to manage your stress on top of managing your appointments and your medication and all of that. So it is a big ask, and it can be hard to practice what you preach sometimes, but it's just doing your best effort to reduce.
Musculoskeletal system.
Yeah, so this system contains the body's bones, ligaments, tendons, cartilage, and muscles. So muscle tension, so you get very tense when you get in a stressful situation. So that's very common and normal as long as it returns to normal post the situation. Chronic muscle tension can lead to tension headaches, migraines, back pain, chronic pain in other parts of the body. And what you see a lot of times is if people have experienced trauma and then they've just never addressed it, they're burying it down and they're fine, they don't have to address it, they're just getting on with life. sometimes because you're not addressing your mental health, it can lead to physical pain. So like it does lead, because again, that stress, it can lead to chronic back pain. So you want to, again, make sure you're addressing your whole body's a system, so address it as a whole.
In the last 2 minutes, let's
Yes.
talk about how to manage stress. You had mentioned deep breathing. You had mentioned exercise.
Yeah, so those are two of our favorites. I had mentioned at the very beginning, but like for deep breathing, there is different tips and tricks you can do, such as the 4x4 method. So you breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, and then breathe out for 4, hold for 4, breathe back in for 4. And they're actually now online, you can buy a sticker that has that, like it's a little box and it will tell you. And some people are visual and they like to have that to like do it visually. But if you're doing that, it kind of tells your nervous system like it's okay to relax. So that deep breathing is wonderful. Exercise and getting outside, especially now that we're in summer. Get outside in the sun, safely use your sunscreen. But being in nature and being around trees, I love hiking and being in the woods. And you do really feel it helps just calm your overall mind. And also makes you feel small, like especially being by the ocean, you realize how large the world is and like maybe your problems are smaller than you think. But it's hard to know that when you're in your own head.
Good point.
Healthy eating, again, your body's a system. Put good things into your body to get good output. Mindfulness and meditation, so whether that's journaling, taking some time for deep breathing. I also find podcasts and even music apps now.
Calming apps like the
Yeah.
sound of something, the sound of the ocean, the sound of nature.
So you can listen to different sounds like that. Also, the sound of birds chirping, like that is a very relaxing thing. And I always like to say, going back to our original roots is like being one with the earth and listening to the nature.
And then
Sleeping. So you'll find if you are chronically stressed, it interrupts your sleep patterns. But if you're not getting adequate sleep, so we'd like to say like 8 hours a night should be the average you aim for. If you're not getting that adequate sleep, your body is unable to restore itself. So it all goes hand in hand and it's a cycle. So that's why we always say, do what works for you. Find activities you love. It could be painting, talking to a friend, going for a walk. Find what works for you and implement it and take time to take care of yourself.
And lastly, let's just look at resources.
Yeah, so today I did get the majority of this information from the American Psychology Association. They had an article, Stress Effects on the Body. So that is apa.org, and they had wonderful resources there for additional information. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you yourself are at home and you're saying, what could work for me? It's a good, doesn't hurt to check out.
Very good. Well, thank you for coming in once again, and I'm glad you're not stressed out about coming in to do these programs anymore. A pleasure. It's always a wealth of information that you share.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Great always coming here.
It's great to have you. And it's great that you are watching. Please continue to watch and support your local public access station, and please stay stress-free as much as you can. A little bit of stress is okay. Take care.